Welcome to the GP Preview Show. Round 5, Spain, Catalonia. We've seen some great Spanish Grand Prix in the past with Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, Max Verstappen, those kind of names, but the best race in modern day Formula 1 was probably last year's race, the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix. I mean, it really was unbelievable. So obviously we're not going to go into what happened in that race, but the train place had just happened. Max Verstappen lines up first race in the Red Bull. Nico Rosberg goes for 8 in a row, and Lewis Hamilton is basically counting his chickens, his last chickens, remaining chickens if he has any left, because he is slipping down the championship order. He's already 4 rounds in and he hasn't won yet. So heading into the 5th round, all that pressure on Max's shoulders, all the looking on Daniel and Max, and then basically the first corner, the first 10 seconds is what you can't even write what happened. Obviously, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton collide, an absolutely unbelievable and spectacular crash. It was over in a few seconds. It left everyone just thinking, what have I just witnessed? And obviously Nico was out, so he lost going for 8. Just remember, he got 7, Michael Schumacher's record in Russia the race beforehand. Lewis Hamilton really was on edge, counting his remaining chickens, one less after Spain, because obviously remember he's now gone 5 races without getting a race win. And obviously then Max Verstappen goes on to win the race, his first race with Red Bull after the controversial trading places. The youngest Formula 1 winner at 18 years old and the first Dutch driver to win a race, second on the podium. So it was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you think, how can we ever top that? Well, we're going to have another bash at it at the 2017 Spanish Grand Prix. Anyway, like we always do, we're going to kick off the GP Preview Show with our predictions. Now, we haven't done great in the first 3 races, but the last race in Russia, I did quite well, guys, because I predicted the first place winner of Valtteri Bottas and then the second place driver of Sebastian Vettel. Unfortunately, I didn't predict 3rd. Lewis Hamilton let us down, but at least I got first and second, and obviously then Valtteri Bottas' first win in Formula 1, so well done to him. A little shout out. So basically we're going to kick off the episode with my top 3, and then we're going to go to Jordan's top 3. So basically in 3rd position, I'm going to go with the man who came in 1st place at Russia, that is Valtteri Bottas. Now obviously his form is really, really strong. He came 5th place in last year's Grand Prix with Williams, which is a very, very good result. That Williams was so last year, and I don't really know what to make of it this year, but he's in that Mercedes, he's pushing, and obviously a race win in Russia 2 weeks ago was very strong. He's definitely on a very big form, but obviously remember he's got Vettel and Hamilton, 2 massive bulls coming behind him like mad, so he's got to watch out what he's going to do. I think he'll fight tooth and nail to get the race win and get as high up as he can, but I think that's all he will manage. In 2nd place, I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton, his Mercedes teammate. So you're going to have 2 Mercedes on the podium, so it's very good for them. But unfortunately, I don't think he'll be able to match the race win. And in 1st place, I'm going to go with the German driver of Sebastian Vettel. Absolutely stellar start by him. It really was fantastic. I mean, yes, obviously Russia, he was nowhere to be seen, as many of the other Ferraris weren't, and Lewis Hamilton wasn't. It really was a Valtteri Bottas race, is the easy way to say it. The only action really was on before corner 1, obviously when Valtteri took the lead, but nevertheless very strong by him. Sebastian Vettel loves this setup before. He's won here before, and he finished in 3rd place last year with Kimi Raikkonen, 2 Ferraris on the podium. Again, Ferrari having an amazing run around Spain, something like 4 wins to the name with Fernando Alonso, obviously, and Michael Schumacher in the past. They do very well around here as well. Ferrari still has a very good run in Spain, obviously with Fernando Alonso driving for them previously, obviously a Spanish driver as well, so they definitely get a lot of support, as many, even ex-drivers, and the teams will go to that country and they'll still get amazing support because it's just kind of like seeked into their blood, really. So they'll do really well. So there they go, there's my predictions. And really, guys, that is actually the standings in the Drivers' Championship. So obviously you've got Sebastian Vettel at the top, Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, and Valtteri Bottas in 3rd. Just to give you a quick rundown of what the driver's standings is, Sebastian Vettel is ahead on 86 points. He is, I don't know if we mentioned that before, but he is actually the only driver to lead, that's not a Mercedes driver, the World Championship, which is, staggering, really. Then behind him on 73 points, 13 points behind is Lewis Hamilton, and then a full 10 points behind is Valtteri Bottas. But he's still keeping that championship hopes alive, and he really, really is. You know, when you think about it, you think he could actually snatch this. And remember, he was Jordan's prediction to win the Drivers' World Championship, so obviously we'll see how that pans out in the future. Anyway, so that's my top three. Obviously, the German and Italian national anthems will be playing in Catalonia on Sunday. So, Jordan, what is your prediction for the 2017 Spanish Grand Prix?
Well, I hope my predictions go as better this week than what they did last race, I would say. Good predictions, I would agree. You know, very solid predictions there. Obviously, with the unpredictability of this season, nobody knows where anyone's going to finish, apart from the McLarens, obviously. So for my top three, I've gone with a bit of a different approach. They're very similar, but however, third place for me is different. I've gone with Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo. Now you're probably thinking, hang on a second, hang on, Jordan. You've been slating Red Bull lately about their form and everything. Why on earth have you chosen Daniel Ricciardo to be on the podium? Well, supposedly Red Bull is going to bring up this big upgrade to Catalonia. Now, obviously, Spain is where is the first race where a lot of teams can bring big upgrades and obviously add them to their packages. And Red Bull have been hyping up, or the media and Red Bull have been hyping up this so-called big package that they're bringing in. And I actually believe that, because when Red Bull say that they are going to bring something good, they do, and they deliver. And I think Daniel Ricciardo is going to outpace a lot of the grid and surprise a lot of us, qualify well, do well in the race, get his strategy right, and actually finish on the podium. In second place, I've gone with Lewis Hamilton. Now you're probably thinking, well, again, why is Lewis Hamilton in second place? He should be, finishing P4 in the Russian Grand Prix. He should be gunning for the win. He should be, first, pretty much everyone's predictions to finish first. Now, Ferrari have the edge over Mercedes. Now Mercedes are panicking like mad, because whenever Ferrari seem to pit, everything goes wrong at Mercedes. It's like a madhouse back at base and in the garage. So obviously now you're probably thinking, right, I think I know who you've got in P1. Same as Lyle, Sebastian Vettel. Now Sebastian Vettel has finished on the podium in every single race so far this season. Brilliant momentum, and I think that is going to continue into Spain. Now, as I said before, the reason why, obviously, I kind of gave it away in P when I said Lewis Hamilton to finish in P2. I did say that Ferrari have the edge, and that's why I've gone with Sebastian Vettel to finish in P1. I think right now Mercedes are just clueless. Well, I wouldn't say clueless, but a bit like whenever Ferrari, as I said, undercut them or overcut them, Mercedes just seem to panic and get the strategy wrong and just be like, okay, we don't have the pace, or don't have the pace over Ferrari just yet. And I think this weekend is going to be a similar sort of fate. However, I think at some point during the season, probably after the halfway point, possibly earlier, I think Mercedes are going to sort of learn what Ferrari is going to do, and I think that's when we're going to start predicting maybe Mercedes is going to move forward. I kind of always jump to the point where I think Lewis Hamilton is going to finish in P1 because of his pace, because of his record. However, I'm going to say, right, I'm going to look at the stats, probably go in depth about this now, take it a little bit seriously. So I'm going to say, so my top three for Spain: P1 Sebastian Vettel, P2 Lewis Hamilton, and P3 Daniel Ricciardo. So that's my predictions.
So as always, guys, it's now time for Fry the Grid. It's my turn to be taking the questions for the third time this season. Australia and Bahrain went okay, but let's see how I do for the first European round at the Spanish Grand Prix. As it stands, the points, I am on 15.5. I'm the victor, leading the World Championship, and John is on 13 points. There's 2.5 points ahead of him. But what's going to happen after a day? And then obviously when he takes the points in Monaco, that means we'll have faced it for a third time. So anyway, guys, enjoy my Fry the Grid for Spain. Hola mi amigos, this is Lyle, ready for Fry the Grid for Spain.
Question 1. Who got the fastest lap in the 2016 Grand Prix?
Max Verstappen.
No, it was actually Daniel Kvyat.
Oh god, well, that's quite amusing.
Oh. Question 2. How many times has Alonso won the Spanish Grand Prix?
So let's think, he won in 2013 and in 2006, I think. Two.
Yes, you got both years right. He won in
great.
2006 and he won in 2013. Well done. Question 3. What year did the Circuit de Catalunya first hold the Spanish Grand Prix?
1991.
I knew you get that.
And I'll tell you how I know that, guys, because obviously we've been on the channel, the little Spanish Grand Prix little facts that we'll have on. First day.
Question 4. Who joined Maldonado on the podium in 2012 when he won his first race for Williams?
Right, again, I know this one. It's Kimi Räikkönen. No, it's not. Yes, it is Kimi Räikkönen. Oh no, I don't. I shouldn't have said that. Was it Kim Raikkonen?
Kim Raikkonen was one of them, yes. Can you name the other one for the
See,
point?
I want to say Grosjean. I don't know. No, it wasn't. Oh God, man! Of course it wasn't. It was the guy who was chasing him, Fernando Alonso.
Yes, well done.
Grosjean.
I'll give you a point for that.
Grosjean, come on.
Grosjean? Come on, I mean, at the time he was doing quite well. Right. Question 5. How many times has Ferrari won in Spain?
Right. So, oh my God. So you've got Michael Schumacher's won a few. Two Fernando Alonso. So it's two Fernando Alonso. 2002. 2002 I definitely know. 2004. 2000. I don't know. 6.
6? 6 wins? Is that your answer?
What were there? 1, 2, 3. Seems about right. 6?
Yeah. If you double it, you would have got it right. It was actually 12.
You're joking. Oh my. Wow.
12 wins.
That's a lot.
Yep. 12 wins. Question 6. How many corners does the circuit have? The Circuit de Catalunya.
15?
1 away, 16.
Oh, you're joking.
I wish I was. Question 7. How many Spanish drivers have won in Spain? Oh, the Spanish Grand Prix.
Oh, like since it's obviously come back, since it's been like on Spain,
Yeah, I mean, this is before Circuit de Catalunya. This is when when Formula 1 was around, obviously. Since Formula 1 began.
Spanish, right? So you'll have Fernando Alonso. Did Pedro win? No. 2.
1.
For just Fernando.
Just Fernando Alonso. Oh. Now on the record, it is actually 2. However, I can't give you that because it was actually pre-Formula 1.
Right.
Now, the very first Spanish Grand Prix was held in 1913. And it was won by a Spanish driver called Carlos de Salamanca. That was it. But
Okay.
also I can't give you that because that was before Formula 1 was around.
Okay.
Question 8. How many laps will Spain have? The Spanish Grand Prix have?
54.
66.
Oh my God.
66 laps. Very short lap. Question 9. Which driver holds the lap record in Spain? Now, I don't need the time. Obviously, I'll give you the time afterwards. But the driver.
See, it's going to be someone like Michael Schumacher or Kimi Raikkonen or Mika Hakkinen. Can I have a clue?
Yes, he got the lap record.
Oh well.
That's a clue.
Great clue. Kimi Raikkonen.
Yes, well done. He did. He got a 1 minute 21.670. I should have wrote down what year it was. I think the guys would have seen on the screen anyways. Okay. Question 10. To the nearest 1,000, what is the capacity of the Circuit de Catalunya?
Oh, you're joking. Near 1,000.
Yes. I like to be precise here.
34.
Close. It was actually 40,000.
Doesn't seem that big.
The actual capacity is 140,700. You got 4 out of 10.
You're joking.
I wish I was. 4 out of 10 for Spain. Anything you would like to add?
Well, there's pretty much nothing I want to say apart from adios.
Adios, amigos. So, Lyle, 4 points. Not probably what you wanted. However, it's what I wanted. Because that means I'm closing the gap. Closing the gap. Can you feel me breathing down your neck? If you get any wind, that's
I
me.
can feel the tension. I can feel the strain.
I'm coming for you, lad. I'm coming for you.
But all I want to say to my result in Spain is just a big adios. So the first driver that we are going to be discussing in the Spanish Grand Prix is Max Verstappen. Now, I think if I didn't mention this person, it would be a bit stupid, really. Now, obviously, he hasn't been doing the best results this year. I mean, it hasn't been great for him. Red Bull Racing have really let him down. So he had a 5th place finish in Australia, which was, you looked at this timing screens and you were thinking, this is supposed to be the coming age of Max. This is supposed to be the year where he, well, really wins the World Championship. I mean, obviously, I remember heading into this year, he was the second favourite driver to win the World Championship. And to be honest, a lot of people will have backed him. Obviously, the youngest in form, the second youngest, obviously at that point with Esteban Ocon younger than him, but come on guys, yeah, Ocon was never going to win the World Championship, so Max was definitely high up to win it. Australia, he had a 5th place, not very good from him. 3rd place in China, a DNF in Bahrain, and a 5th place in Russia. Anyway, but last year, as you remember from the start, as I mentioned, and obviously train places, our 2016 Spanish Grand Prix review, if you were still an F1 Debate Show fan back then, and obviously everything else, you will know, and if you had been living under a rock, you won't have known what happened, because obviously everyone did. As I mentioned at the start, it was probably one of the most famous races. Max Verstappen takes the victory, becomes the youngest winner at 18 years and 228 days, and the first Dutch to win a race. It really was special for that, and it was an unbelievable moment. I mean, obviously bettered by the 2 Mercedes crashing. Anyway, so we're going to start with him. I'm basically heading into this race. I mean, this now actually marks the 1-year anniversary of him driving for Red Bull. So obviously, as I mentioned, he's been in Red Bull for a year, which means Daniel Kvyat has been at Toro Rosso for a year, but we'll get on to him at a later date. And basically, Max Verstappen will be looking forward to this race. He'll be thinking, okay, this is where I got my first win in Formula 1. You know, all the fans are here. I love this track as well. Obviously, even if he didn't love this track, he will now. And obviously, his first win, he will definitely be going all guns blazing. Obviously, Red Bull haven't been too strong at the moment. I mean, yes, he got 1 podium in China, but it still wasn't very, very strong from him. He was doing well, obviously well last year, going for really a lot of race wins, and should have gone his way a few times. First race win, obviously ahead of Daniel Ricciardo by about 10 rounds, so definitely very strong by him. The car hasn't really been there, but Max is definitely there, and I think this race will give him a lot of confidence going forward. I mean, it's almost like it's like playing say this, a leg of a cup, and then being at home with all this support and that. It's the cards have really stacked in his favour, and there's no Dutch Grand Prix obviously for his home Grand Prix, but technically he probably will count this one as a very high up one, because obviously it's where he's got his first win, and it'll be very, very special for him. So I mean, as I say, so John, this is where the year, the clock kind of start year 2, really. He's been at Red Bull racing for a year. First win, it must have been very special for him, and even though he hasn't been getting the result because of the car reliability and that, I mean, obviously Bahrain, he had a brake failure, whatnot, obviously that's probably like minor stuff for Max and especially Red Bull as a whole. So putting all that aside, the mentality of Max, to be honest, I think it's got enough to really drive Red Bull to the finishing line, if you get what I mean. Like, Red Bull might be on fumes, the car might be conking out on fumes, but Max's mentality to win the race, because obviously of what he did last year, I think that'll be enough. So basically, as I say, his confidence will be so high. So John, I mean, Max's confidence, because of what he did last year, will be very high for this race, won't it?
Oh, definitely. It will always be something that will live in the memory for him. But obviously, the first win for a Formula 1 driver, it lives up in the memory as well. It was a very special moment for Formula 1 as well, because at the time, it was a very controversial movement by Red Bull, wasn't it, to replace Daniel Kvyat with Max Verstappen. And a lot of people, it was a massive, obviously, like now with Fernando Alonso going to IndyCar, it's exactly the same. It was a massive media spotlight thing, wasn't it? Everyone was covering it. It was like, really, no one expected it, like Fernando and IndyCar. But no, I mean, Max Verstappen winning the Grand Prix last year just showed how mature he is in the car, fending off Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Räikkönen, them types of drivers. 5 World Championships between those two drivers, multiple race wins, multiple Grand Prix entries. Max Verstappen was probably on race 30 or 20, 30 odd, I would have thought. So again, obviously lacked that experience, and obviously as well being on the spotlight of driving for a faster car, and it just proved that he could handle it as well. Obviously, however, the following Grand Prix after that, I think the pressure got to him a little bit then in Monaco. But no, I think Max Verstappen is going to have a lot of momentum going into this Grand Prix as well. As I said, why I got Daniel Ricciardo as 3rd place. Again, Red Bull bringing this upgrade as well, but obviously that's for another episode. And again, Red Bull's confidence will be very sky high as well, and hopefully, go, okay, it happened last year. What can happen this year? But then on the other side, you could say that Red Bull won that race because Mercedes crashed, and if that hadn't happened, Max probably would have finished P3. But again, that's for another story. So, now, at the Circuit de Catalunya, when it comes to qualifying, it's very, very important. A bit like Monaco, if you start on pole position, you have a very good chance of winning the Grand Prix. And 18 times is where pole position has been won in the Circuit de Catalunya. Obviously, more times than anywhere else. So, very, very important to get pole position because it's very tricky for overtaking as well, as a lot of people have said. The lowest anyone has finished, the lowest anyone has won the race on the grid was P5, and that was by Fernando Alonso in 2013 when he made that amazing start, going past Kimi Räikkönen, Lewis Hamilton, going from 5th to 3rd. Obviously pulled off some amazing overtakes at the time when Mercedes were just coming through, Red Bull as well were obviously on an absolute high, and that proved to be, unfortunately, Fernando Alonso's last win in front of his home crowd. But today, that was Fernando Alonso's last win in Formula 1. Nearly four years tomorrow, guys, is when Fernando Alonso took his last win in Formula 1. It's very, very sad to hear, very, very sad to see. So obviously, coming into this Grand Prix on the subject of Fernando Alonso, this is going to be his last Grand Prix since he's going to compete in the Indy 500. Once a checker flag falls, Fernando Alonso will probably just pull over and go, right, that's me done. Probably open the boot of his McLaren, get his bags out, and just toddle off to the airport, and off he goes to America. So the question I want to ask, obviously to Lyle and to you as well, will Fernando be more focused on the Indy 500 than the Spanish Grand Prix? Because he knows that he's going to have more chance of doing well in the Indy than he is at the Spanish Grand Prix. Because quite frankly, it doesn't matter what McLaren will say, they might say tomorrow, or they might say, before, obviously now, okay, we're going to have this amazing upgrade that's going to blow everyone away. I don't care. It's a load of bull it's a load of Red Bull in my opinion. The car it's a pile of rubbish. Words that we can't say on the F1 debate show. I really want to express it, but I don't want it. We want to stay professional. So obviously Fernando Alonso, he knows that he's not going to get anything. So will his mindset be more on the IndyCar than the Spanish Grand Prix? What do you think about that, Lyle? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely. I mean, it's almost like he's been given, a bailout. It's almost like he's been given another option. I mean, Russia was definitely I think that was the turning point. It's like the turning point in everything, really. I mean, for example, when I saw that happen, I kind of thought of when Lewis Hamilton conked out in the 2012 Singapore Grand Prix. That was like the last moment. And then he realised he was going to go to Mercedes. Now, obviously, Fernando Alonso was a bit different in that. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton was a world champion at that point. There was an opening at Mercedes, this, that, and that. But, it reminded me of that. It was like, Fernando Alonso, is this the last, is that like the last saloon, really, for him in that car? But to be honest, though, he said that a lot, obviously, when he was been doing that, Formula GP2 engine back in those days. But I do think that he is, because obviously, as we all know, and as we covered in the last F1 debate show, he went off to Indianapolis, he went to the Speedway, he tested out in the car, it's fantastic, he's really, really happy, because obviously Fernando Alonso hasn't been happy in a good few years, really, apart from when the crack jokes on Tuned, and when he's watching the F1 debate show, he's cracking, he's cracking up.
He's joining in.
That's the only time Fernando Alonso's actually laughing, John, when he's watching the F1 debate show. Obviously, he's not laughing in the car, unless Stoffel, trips over or something on the way back to the garage, to make him laugh. But so it's been a really hard road for him, and I think that he is focusing on that. It's those kind of things that play into it, really. He's happy, he's looking forward to it. This is like a fresh start, really, and obviously he's going for that Triple Crown as well, which is obviously really strong. Obviously, he'll match Graham Hill as well in that record, which would be fantastic for him. If something doesn't happen in this race, I mean, obviously it's his home race as well. I remember Jordan, it's his first European race. It is really special as well. He gets, I don't know, he just feel, obviously Fernando in Spain goes hand in hand, really. Obviously, as I say, because it's his home race, and just feel like he loves this track, and that obviously 2 wins to his name is great. I think he'll still be focused on this race, but there is going to be a little niggle in the back of his mind that'll say, go for Indy, just focus on the Indy 500, really. Give your all attention to that. And to be honest, it's also like the Honda side in the USA. That's probably what they want as well. Because obviously, as we've mentioned as well, as you just said, Jordan, as well, as soon as that Spanish Grand Prix is ended, there'll be no like relaxation or anything like that. He will go straight to America to do the Indy 500s. Obviously, it depends what he wants really, but it's his home race, remember, at the end of the day, so he'll definitely be focused on that. But after McLaren's pace, it's not like he's driving a Ferrari anymore, or a Red Bull or a Mercedes, where he could win the race and he could be like, oh yes, well, I've won, that's fantastic, I'll enjoy it and then go off. I mean, what's the point in putting all that energy into the car? Because, for example, obviously, Fernando Alonso's only a man at the end of the day. He's only got so much energy, and so much concentration he can put into it. And obviously, like everyone else, he gets excited about something else, but like Christmas or whatever, once Christmas is around the corner, it's like December. Say if, like working in December is just pointless because obviously you're just focusing on Christmas. I don't know. Don't say that December's going to be a sloppy month, but it's like he'll be focusing on that, but he'll definitely be wanting to do well at the Spanish. It is home race. It's exciting to see what happens, really, but that's a mention of Fernando Alonso in every single episode that we've done since we've come back. Anyway, so the next thing that I'm going to mention, it's like a two-part. It's the team, really, that I want to mention. That obviously is Toro Rosso, and they're basically mentioned for two different reasons. The first one is obviously Daniel Kvyat, because I want to get like kind of the other side of the trading places, and the second side obviously is Carlos Sainz, the home driver. So let's start with Carlos Sainz, obviously in 8th place in Australia, 7th in China, and a DNF in Bahrain, which it seems like it got quite a lot of people out, and a 10th place in Russia, just sneaking into the points. Now, basically, I mean, he around this track, he obviously enjoys it because he's a home favourite as well. I mean, he was definitely putting up the fight. He's definitely putting up the fight last year as well. Obviously doing really well to claw back. The highest Spaniard as well, 8th place, obviously ahead of Fernando Alonso, who was back in 10th. So he was definitely clawing that by as well. Seeing that his teammate was struggling because obviously of the trading places thing. So Daniel Kvyat 13th was probably the best that he could even hope for in the last year's race. And then this is almost like a follow-up question to what you said, Jordan, about Fernando Alonso's mentality. If Fernando is somewhere else, will that actually give Carlos more more drive? Because he'll be then thinking, well, I can be the first, but I can be like the number one Spaniard, if that makes sense. I finished higher in last year's race, obviously tick in terms of Spaniard last year. Fernando Alonso's car isn't very good, so tick number 2. The fans saw that and have seen that I'm doing better than Fernando. I did better in last year's race, and obviously I have more drive. Tick 3. And obviously I could be sticking around for longer. Tick 4. So is he now like the number one Spaniard? And do you think he's getting quite excited about that kind of idea that he could be the number one Spaniard on the grid and obviously in the race? And then obviously do you think that'll all help to boost him higher up in the finish on Sunday's race?
Definitely, because first of all, Carlos Sainz has got more points than Fernando Alonso, and he's got more power than Fernando Alonso. So obviously he's going to go into this weekend, not in terms of actual driving ability. Obviously Alonso, it is going to take some beating how Alonso drives. However, Carlos Sainz right now, in terms of performance-wise in this season, he is the top Spaniard, and I think he will do well this weekend. I think this is where he finished in P6 back in 2015, which is his joint highest finish in Formula 1. So again, that is a good record. I think he finished 6th somewhere else, but he did finish 6th. I think it is 6th. I hope it's 6th anyways. In 2015, this is where he joined his highest place finish in Formula 1. So in Spain at his home Grand Prix, amazing as well. On the other side of that as well, for Daniel Kvyat as well, again, he's going to be thinking, oh man, I could have won that Grand Prix. That's his mentality coming into this weekend. I could have been on that podium. I could have had that trophy back at base, but unfortunately, Daniel Kvyat, it is what it is. It is Formula 1. I think he is over it. I think Daniel Kvyat is completely over it. I think he's watched that Game of Thrones. Actually, I don't think he's ever watched that Game of Thrones episode, whichever one he was, whatever season or whatever episode it was. Exactly, you'd probably never watch it again. You'd probably go, okay, season 1, episode 3, season 1, episode 5. I'm not watching episode 4 again. No. I know what happened the last time I watched that. So, bad omen in that. So, obviously, on the subject of drivers, we're going to move on to another driver. A driver who actually we don't really... Well, we've mentioned him before, but obviously we haven't really talked about him as much more in depth. And that is Sergio Perez. Now, he's had a bit of a quiet start to the season compared to what he had last season. Obviously, we ranted and raved about him a lot last season because obviously the podium finishes he had for a team like Force India. Now, obviously, Force India aren't anywhere near a podium right now. Obviously, only time will tell. Don't count your chickens just yet for anyone who's writing off Force India. But But a stat I wanted to bring to you guys, well, we're full of stats today, like,
we are.
wow. Every bit full of stats, and there's more to come as well, so if you stay tuned as well. Sergio Perez, stat attack.
There's a long one, that one.
It was? Big stat attack. Sergio Perez is currently on a 14 race scoring run, which is very, very good for not only for Sergio Perez but for Force India in general. Dates back all the way to that amazing, brilliant attending Grand Prix of Germany 2016. I mean, the fans there were absolutely incredible.
Oh wait, wow!
From that
wow,
amazing. From that moment on, up until the Russian Grand Prix. Well, sorry, I say up until the Russian Grand Prix. That's where he scored points as well. He scored points in every single round, 14. And obviously he'll be looking to continue that to 15 Grand Prix, which again he's on that hierarchy list of drivers who have done the same sort of fate and more. The actual record for anyone interested, you might know this, you might not know this, is 27 races consecutive scoring points, and that was done by the Finnish driver Kimi Räikkönen back in his Lotus days when he came out into Formula 1. Barring 2012 to Hungary 2013, he scored points in every single round from then till then. Amazing record. Sergio Perez is going for that this weekend. So Lyle, the question is to you, can he do it? And more than that, can he continue this form? Because Force India right now, that just proves reliability. Look at Esteban Ocon. He scored points in every single round this season. Perez scored points in every single round since Germany 2016. Now Force India must be thinking that's a good record for Force India, isn't it? To have that mint reliability, unlike certain teams.
We're not going to mention, but
I'm saying nothing. So here's two questions. Right? Can Perez go to 15, and can he actually beat Kimi Räikkönen's record, judging on their reliability so far?
I think he can. I really think he can. I mean, he's a really good driver. He's a really strong driver, Sergio Perez. I mean, even like through last year as well. Yeah, as John said, we were building him up so much. One driver of the day twice. Obviously, 2 podiums in Monaco and back. A really, really strong street races was fantastic. He's such a strong driver, and that Force India, as he said, is so reliable. They're one of the best. They're like kind of like a silent but deadly team on the grid now. They're creeping up, and it's really
because they stink.
And obviously,
because he went silent but deadly, so they stink. If you get what I mean.
You should give him a hard time because of that.
So anyway, obviously last year they got beaten by Williams, and that's like. Not anymore. No. That's definitely not going to happen. So obviously, they're definitely creeping up, and they're not silent but deadly. I take that back, but they are, definitely a team that's creeping up.
I get what you mean.
That's creeping up the list. Very strong drive by Sergio Perez. I'm really excited to see him. It's fantastic to see him driving. He's doing so well in that Force India is really fantastic as well. Obviously Esteban Ocon as well doing a fantastic job as well. Really strong, really reliable. Another, the third team on the grid. I mean, 13. Can you believe us saying that? There's actually 3 teenagers on the grid. Obviously Lance Stroll, whoever he is, Esteban Ocon and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is like an oldie now. It's weird to say that he's a teenager. He turns 20, I think it's in September. So that'll be quite, that'll be like, I guess all the oldies watching Formula 1 will be like, come on, get 20 and then you're not a teenager anymore. I mean, Jordan's 20 but I'm still a teenager, so obviously I bet he's, waiting until I get to 20 and then he can be like, oh, you wanted me now. I feel young, I'm still a teenager. Come on, hurry up. August, hurry up, man. It is really good for Sergio Perez. I'm really happy he's a leader of the team now. Now that obviously Hülkenberg's gone to Renault, very strong, and I think he can get to 15. I think he'll beat Kimi Räikkönen's record, and it's exciting. It's another record that Force India will be able to hold. Absolutely spectacular from them. Anyway, guys, so that's where we're going to finish the GP preview show for Spain. Thank you for watching. If this is the first time you're seeing us two on the screens, make sure that you subscribe to the F1 Debate Show channel 197.
And also as well, I also want to add as well, if you do subscribe, can you please click the little bell right next to it? So then that way, because I've learned recently that if you click that, you get a notification every time you upload. Every time we upload. So if you can do that, then that'd be much appreciated.
It would be as well. That would be. That'd be fantastic. Get a little notification when we upload. We upload obviously the F1 Debate shows at 6 PM GMT on a Saturday, and then these normally come out around 12 p.m. GMT on a Thursday, so obviously make sure that you stay tuned for those. Next up we have the F1 debate show, and obviously we hope you enjoy the Spanish Grand Prix. Next one is Monaco, is the next preview show, round 6, and that's also, if you're keeping track of Fry the Grid, that's also when Jordan will be taking the chair. Round 3 for him. Let's see what he knows and what he doesn't know about the street circuit of Monte Carlo. Anyway, so we hope you stay tuned.